Question I want to deal with now is, how would you describe spirituality in your life? At this time in my life, I want to answer that question in a very personal way. And one of the things that occurs to me right off the bat is that when I look around the world and see the universe and God's creation, I realize that none of this is necessary. None of it has to exist. As I get older, the framework of my meaning in life, my spirituality, if you will, has expanded and gotten a bit more basic. And I've perhaps a bit more philosophical. A few years ago, I heard a question asked by the contemporary philosopher and physicist Stephen Hawking. And he asked the question, why is there something rather than nothing? I looked that question up and found that it was originally asked by a philosopher named Gottfried Leibniz in the 17th century. He asked the same question, why is there anything at all rather than nothing? And as someone who's worked in the church for most of my life, I've studied a lot of theology. But as I age, my spirituality has become less theological and more accepting of the mystery of life. I'm more accepting and less in need of having answers. I'm beginning to experience God through creation itself as a revelation of God, that God puts God's stamp on creation itself. And God's love for creation is wrapped up in it completely. The universe and all of life is a gift and an expression of a loving God. And for me, all creation is sacramental. This is in tune very much with Franciscan spirituality, which I've come to study a little bit of. And Francis said once, to love God is to love the things that God loves. And that's kind of how I experience God today, to try to love the things that God loves. I know that I was born out of love initially in order to learn to love as I've grown in my life. And I also know that when it's my time to leave, I will die into a loving God. For me, prayer is less about saying prayers and more about experiencing the quiet presence of God. This has moved me to experience gratitude, joy, praise, and ultimately peace in my life and a kind of reconciliation with all things. It helps me to realize more it's about relationship. And that relationship is so fundamental to all of life and to my life particularly. And that's my notion of spirituality at this point in my elder years.